You're nothing but a burden to this family. Those were the last words my stepfather spat at me before slamming the front door in my face. I was 17, alone on the sidewalk, with nothing but a hastily packed duffel bag and $43 to my name. That night, I slept on a park bench. Rain soaked through my jacket. I remember staring up at the streetlight through the downpour, making a promise to myself that would shape the next decade of my life. 10 years later, Frank Mercer stood in my office, hat literally in hand, not recognizing the CEO whose signature was on his loan application. The look on his face when I finally said, "Hello, Frank. It's been a while," is something I'll treasure forever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is James Collins, and this is the story of how I went from homeless teenager to the man who held my stepfather's financial future in my hands. Mom died when I was 15. Cancer, quick and brutal. She'd married Frank when I was 10, and for those first 5 years, things were tolerable. Not warm, but civil. Frank had his own biological son, Trevor, who was 2 years younger than me. The favoritism was obvious but manageable. When Mom died, everything changed. Frank became cold, distant. Little comments about my appetite, my school supplies, the electricity I used studying late. "Your mother's not here to coddle you anymore," he'd say. Trevor started mimicking his father's behavior. I focused on school. It was my ticket out. I maintained straight A's, joined every academic club that would boost my college applications, and worked part-time at a local grocery store. Every dollar went into a coffee can I kept hidden in my closet. The breaking point came 2 months before high school graduation. I'd been accepted to State University with a partial scholarship. Not enough to cover everything, but a start. I needed to discuss the remaining finances with Frank. "College?" Frank laughed, beer in hand. "With what money? Your mother's insurance paid for her funeral and medical bills. There's nothing left." "But I said a lot of things to keep your mother happy. She's gone now." "I've saved almost $3,000, I said, "and I can work while—" Frank's face darkened. "3,000? Where'd you get that kind of money?" "From my job. I've been saving for 2 years. That night, while I was sleeping, Frank went through my room. I woke to him standing over me, my emptied coffee can in his hands. "Household contribution," he called it. When I protested, things escalated quickly. "You ungrateful little shit. I've fed and housed you out of respect for your mother, but she's been gone 2 years and you're just draining resources Trevor could be using for his future." "That's my college money," I shouted back. "College? You think you're college material? You're nothing but a burden to this family, always have been." He threw my duffel bag at me. "Pack your stuff. You want to be an adult? Be an adult somewhere else." 17 years old, 2 months from graduation, and suddenly homeless. I spent that first night in the park, then the next two in the 24-hour laundromat until the owner chased me out. My high school guidance counselor, Mrs. Patel, noticed something was wrong when I showed up to school in the same clothes 3 days running. When I finally broke down in her office, she made some calls. "James, I have a friend who runs a youth shelter. It's not fancy, but it's safe. You can stay there until graduation." The shelter was tough, noisy, crowded with strict rules, but it was a roof. I continued going to school, working my grocery job, and trying to figure out my next steps without my savings. Mrs. Patel helped me apply for emergency financial aid based on my new status. Documented abandonment by legal guardian. That phrase changed everything. The university increased my scholarship and offered housing assistance. Graduation day, not a single family member came. Mrs. Patel cheered extra loud when they called my name. That summer, I worked 2 jobs and moved into the university dorms early through a special program for students in housing distress. I chose computer science as my major, practical, with good job prospects. College was a blur of classes, part-time work, and ramen noodles. I never went home for holidays. There was no home to go to. Instead, I took extra shifts so other students could visit their families. In my junior year, I landed an internship at FinTech Solutions, a growing financial technology company. I impressed my supervisor enough that they offered me a part-time position during my senior year and a full-time job after graduation. I graduated summa cum laude. Again, no family in the audience. But by then, I'd built my own support network, friends, professors, coworkers who believed in me. At FinTech, I threw myself into my work. Nights, weekends, I was always available. When others complained about late hours, I just thought, at least I have somewhere warm to sleep. My dedication paid off. I rose from junior developer to team lead in 3 years. By year 5, I was department director. Year 7, chief technology officer. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. Our CEO announced his retirement, and the board launched a search for his replacement. With my technical background and understanding of the company's systems, I was a dark horse candidate. The board meetings were grueling. "You're young," they said. "Only 32. "Yes," I replied, "and I've been with the company for 11 years. I've helped build every major system we currently use. I know this company inside and out." After 3 rounds of interviews, they offered me the position. James Collins, CEO of FinTech Solutions, now managing over 500 employees and a portfolio worth billions. I bought a house. Nothing flashy, but mine. I donated regularly to youth shelters and educational programs for disadvantaged students. I created a scholarship at my old university specifically for students who had experienced homelessness. Life was good, stable. The memories of that rainy night on the park bench had faded to a dull ache rather than an open wound. Then last month, a loan application crossed my desk. We don't typically have the CEO review individual applications, but this one had been flagged for special attention due to some discrepancies in the financial history. The name jumped out at me. Frank Mercer. Address, my childhood home. The loan was substantial, $250,000 for business expansion. I did some digging. Frank had started a construction company about 5 years ago, an initial success followed by mismanagement. The company was now teetering on bankruptcy. This loan was his last hope. I could have recused myself. Should have, probably. But curiosity got the better of me. I scheduled the meeting. Frank arrived punctually, unaware of who he'd be meeting. Our receptionist escorted him to my office, announcing, "Mr. Mercer for you, Mr. Collins." He looked older, grayer, the confident swagger replaced by the slightly stooped posture of a man carrying invisible weights. He didn't recognize me at first. The suited executive behind the large desk was a far cry from the skinny teenager he'd thrown out. "Thank you for meeting with me," he began, hat literally twisting in his hands. "I know my application has some issues, but I can explain." I let him talk for nearly 20 minutes about his business, his plans, the economy, bad luck. Never once mentioning family or personal responsibility. Finally, I interrupted. "Your son doesn't work with you in the business?" Frank looked startled. "Trevor? No, he's not really the working type, still trying to find his path." "And your other son?" I asked quietly. Confusion crossed his face. "I don't have another—" "Hello, Frank," I said, leaning forward. "It's been a while." The color drained from his face. Recognition, shock, and then something else. Calculation. I could practically see the gears turning as he reassessed the situation. "James? My God, I had no idea. What a coincidence." His tone shifted instantly to warm familiarity. "You look great. Done well for yourself, I see." "Yes," I said simply. "I have." "I always knew you would," he continued, leaning forward eagerly. "Always told your mother you had potential, just needed the right motivation." I raised an eyebrow. "Motivation? Is that what you call throwing a 17-year-old out with nowhere to go?" He waved dismissively. "Ancient history. We were both under stress after your mother passed. I probably could have handled things better." "Probably," I agreed. Frank's smile widened. "But look at you now, CEO. I bet having family connections at the bank will make this loan process smooth sailing, right?" He winked conspiratorially. "Family connections," I repeated slowly. "Is that how you see this interaction, Frank? A family reunion?" His smile faltered slightly. "Well, water under the bridge and all that. We're both adults now." I opened his file. "Let's discuss your application. You're requesting $250,000 for business expansion, but your company's financials show declining revenue for 3 consecutive quarters." "Just a temporary setback," he assured me. "The market's tough right now." And this second mortgage on your home from 2 years ago? Home improvements, he said quickly. Increasing property value. Interesting, because county records show no permits pulled for major renovations, and your property tax assessment hasn't changed. I closed the file. Frank, this loan would be throwing good money after bad. His friendly facade cracked. Look, I need this money. The business will fold without it. That's not my problem, I replied. You ungrateful, he caught himself. After everything I did for you growing up? Everything you did for me? I repeated incredulously. You stole my college savings and kicked me out 2 months before graduation. I gave you a roof over your head for years. You were legally obligated to do so as my guardian. That's the bare minimum, not a favor. Frank's expression darkened. So that's it? You're going to use your position to get revenge? Real professional. This isn't revenge, Frank. This is business. Your loan application would be denied regardless of who reviewed it. The numbers don't work. He stood abruptly. You always were a burden. Now you're just a burden with power. I remained seated. I have an alternative proposal. Frank paused at the door. What? I'll personally loan you $3,000, the exact amount you took from me. Same terms you gave me. 0 notice, 0 interest, 0 repayment plan. His face reddened. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's closure. Take it or leave it. You can keep your money, he spat. I'll find financing elsewhere. As he reached for the door, I added, one more thing, Frank. I'm establishing a scholarship at Trevor's old high school for students who've experienced family abandonment. I'm naming it after my mother. Frank froze, then left without another word. The following week, I received a plain envelope in my office mail. Inside was a check for $3,000 and a note that simply read, We're even now. I donated the money to the youth shelter that had taken me in all those years ago. Yesterday, I received a wedding invitation, not from Frank. We haven't spoken since that meeting, but from Trevor. My stepbrother found me on social media, apologized for his teenage behavior, and we've cautiously reconnected. The invitation included a handwritten note. I know it's awkward, but I'd really like my brother at my wedding. Dad doesn't need to know until you're there. I haven't decided if I'll go. Part of me wants to close that chapter entirely. Another part wonders if there's healing possible where I least expect it. What I do know is this. That 17-year-old sleeping on a park bench in the rain could never have imagined where life would lead. The burden became the CEO. The abandoned child created his own definition of home and family. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most give us the motivation to become someone they can't ignore, not for revenge, but for ourselves. That rainy night wasn't the end of my story. It was barely the beginning.